Today I'm very pleased to host Kishara Nin-Ki again. And after the artifacts video, we found out that there is much more to talk about. So we decided to reconvene again and talk about the project Stargate and other, subsidiary, I guess, projects that she was in and the story of how she got there originally. So what do we have to say about this?
Well, first, I would like to tell people who they hear Stargate, the first thing they think is the Alpha Project, which is the remote view. That's not what I was part of.
Okay.
I was part of there are 5 sub-projects to every project whenever it gets started.
Okay.
I was part of Project Bravo. And Bravo, very specifically, the whole concept, the whole Stargate in Cambridgeshire, was documented through Cambridge University's psychoeugenics project.
Wow.
So everything that I experienced was documented. And that was led by a Japanese scientist in conjunction with the CIA, and it was a Marine Company Foxtrot 34 who did all the security for us, and MI5. And this was all conjunction with or what they refer to as organic clairvoyance, people who have clairvoyance that runs in the family extensively. And mine is one of them. So the goal was to hemisync, use the gateway process to hemisync both sides of the brain so that you have an effective individual who can use kinetic as well as passive abilities. Passive abilities being empathy, clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, all of it. Those are passive. Those run the family. So on the flip, stimulating the section of the brain close to the pineal gland that activates such things like electrokinesis. Okay, I have, according to Stargate, I have dormant electrokinesis. So ideally, to have an individual who can not only foreshadow something, not only feel individuals they can't see, but also be able to kinetically manipulate different aspects or just general telekinesis, which is more dominant in men than women. And very often, the reason this project did not succeed is because successful hemisync usually results in absolutely crazy.
Okay.
As you can tell, I was not successful.
Right. So, okay. So let's start from the beginning. How did you get into this project in the first place?
I went in at 9 years old. So this is an M culture project. So they prefer to take the children because they're still malleable. The neural pathways haven't absolutely solidified into their concepts of what they can do and what they can't do, to put it basically.
Yeah.
So you want to get kids by the time they're 7. We had a slight hiccup with me on that. But going before that, I was born on Camp Lejeune. And I'm going to say it that way because I'm mostly sure I was born. Given everything coming out, given Project Montauk, which to the best of my knowledge, I was not a part of anything else but Stargate. But given Project Montauk that occurred before Stargate, and you had the genetic CRISPR editing being manipulated with there, I could have been designed. I could be a hatchling, but don't know anything about my birth. If there was.
So Camp Lejeune is a military base in the United States and North Carolina. You were born there. Did you have parents?
Well, my father is genetically related to me. I never met him. I did get my DNA tested, and that's how I know that. As for the woman who raised me, I'm not biologically related to.
Okay.
I found out from my uncle when I found him in Oregon that I was kidnapped when I was 6 months old. And my father came from Okinawa, Japan. At the time, it was Vietnam War. So he came from Okinawa and he went to go find me. But in the course of this, he basically went AWOL. The MPs caught up with him and they arrested him, and he was discharged from the military dishonorably.
I see.
So he find me. My uncle said that they looked for me for about 20 years before they gave up. So in the course of this weirdness, I ended up in California, kind of missing, I guess, for about 7 years. And when I was found, which I still don't fully understand, but when I was found, I was in a foster home. I was 7.5 years old. And I don't have a full explanation for this story at all.
I see. So you don't know really the details of your early years.
Not the memories. No, this one though I remember. It is. I was in a foster home. I don't know where. I do know it was in San Diego, and I was the only one in my room. The alarm clock turned 11:47. For whatever random ass reason, I woke up in the middle of the night at 7 years old, looked at the clock, 11:47, and looked at my doorway, and we had a yellow light in the hallway. But there was a bright white light coming from my door. And I can't sleep with the door open. The door was wide open. Bright white light coming through, which turned into a person. And I guess I recognized him because I remember crawling off the bed and running to him. And also I could think, I knew he was there to save me. I knew somebody would come. And I jumped in his arms. I still don't know who this guy was, but I jumped into his arms, and he said that they have been looking for me. And then it blacks out.
I see.
So that's why I'm like, I can't explain this one. It's been actually one of those mysteries through the entirety of my life. Who this guy was, why he was glowing white, who are they that are looking for me, what happened?
I see.
And yeah.
So how do you know that you were born at Camp Lejeune then? Were you told about this, or?
The document is the only thing I have.
You don't remember the place, you mean, right? You just have an evidence.
No.
Wow. Interesting.
No, I don't know anything about it except for what I've read. My birth certificate says the Navy Hospital on Camp Lejeune. Amazing. And that's why I'm like, I honestly don't know. I get little bits that come back, and this is also one of those aspects where I'm missing the entirety of the 80s. So I have more little gaps of memories that I've recovered, and larger amount of my childhood is fuzzy or
missing. Okay. So when you were taken to the project, the Stargate project, were you taken from the foster home, as you remember, or somewhere else?
No. See, this is the other gap. From 7.5 to 9. I only have little bits of memories of a village and a forest and the people. I'm starting to think that maybe it's not a question of amnesia, that maybe it's a question of a time differential.
Okay.
Because if I was taken to Vega when I was 7.5, potential year time differential could result in 10 years here.
I see. Taken to Vega by whom and to where?
Well, there's the white glowing guy.
Mm-hmm.
Several times I was taken down to Agartha, and they did that by portal.
Okay.
My handler was a woman. I called her Mary, but my handler was a woman, and she took me down there for testing. And I know there's a ship bay or something. I don't know how they get out of there because they're underground. But there's this whole cavern with ships and whatnot in there. And I know that's there. So at this point, I'm assuming the Agarthans, which sounds super vague. Agarthans are simply descendants of the old colony.
Right.
So it's not one of those, why would they be involved? Well, they're descendants of the old colonies. So they're going to maintain the traditions and duties. So
I see.
And part of that testing.
You think that from 7.5 to 9 there was a gap, but you remember like bits and pieces of being taken to different places, like Agartha, right?
I remember going down to Agartha from the time I was 5. So that's a part of the chronological timeline.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, Mary had taken me down there before to test in the white room. I don't know what else to call it. It was this room where she took me down by portal. We walked down this little bridgeway, and the room opened up. It all looked like white stonework, white stucco, something to that effect. And the desks came out of the wall. I mean, it looked like they grew out of the wall.
Right.
The chair sucked. It was totally uncomfortable. But it was this kind of U-shaped chair with a backup.
Okay.
And like it had just grown out of shit. But we sat at these. This kid here and this kid here, both these were boys. This reptilian boy, he was testing that we were all the same age. This dude was massive. I mean, he looked like a 30-year-old man body, but he was an 8-year-old kid. And not, reptilian body, but 8 years old. Anyway, he was doing his thing. The other kid next to him was, I don't know what he was. He had these really cool ears that kind of did this flower petal looking thing.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure he was aquatic. I don't know. He would have been fun to talk to, though. So where I was at the desk, and they sat me down. They sat us all down and asked questions. But they sat me down, and the first thing they asked is, show me home. And it went to Vega. So it runs through, basically your screen runs through a bunch of star maps, and it pulled me right over to Vega.
I see. Okay.
And I'm like, it's home, what? So that's the type of testing they do there. And I'm presuming it is consciousness-based technology, because it just did its own thing, and I didn't even have to consciously think about anything. Of course, I was 5. But so I had gone down to Agartha a couple times. I knew there was a limit on how many times I could go through a portal. And that was explained by biology. Hybrids kind of go wonkus with portal-based travel, because the DNA can just go off into a whole new thing.
So the Agarthan group, what did they look like that took you?
Mary was, Jesus, she was tall. Keep in mind, from a 5-year-old perspective, everybody's tall. So look back on it, I'm going to guess she was about 6'5". She would come in wearing this all white robe, and this necklace thing I could never quite remember clearly. But she would wear this necklace, this white robe. It had a hood type thing, but she never wore that. The color of the hair is what they refer to as dirty dishwater blonde. It's not quite blonde, not quite clean, not quite brown, not light brown. Dirty dishwater blonde. And she had the blue eyes and the Caucasian, very pale Caucasian skin.
So she would come through a portal, right, to take you.
Yeah.
Okay.
She had a device, and that device opened the portal, and it's that frequency navigation. Sorry, did it freeze?
Okay. So you were taken there for testing. You got tested as being from Vega, supposedly.
I'm
And
serious. And I've got Hubble images, but it's not quite the planet. It's getting the system. I've got images of all three stars because it's trinary, not binary. And I've been trying to get better shots of potentially the planet. And if necessary, see about renting time on one of the telescopes and see if it's even possible. Vega is the only planet in Sirius with 2 moons, and it is closest to the white star. Vega, the planet, is in Canis Major. So if you're coming into Canis Major, it is the first large planet you see. It has 2 moons. One is actually a small planet.
I see.
You have a black star on this side, and you got a dwarf on this side. And this is it. Our planet has elliptical orbit with tidal lock. So we have a very long dark season and a very short light season. Everyone on Vega who's Sirian descended from a planet that got destroyed in the Lyra constellation. Vega was the star. So that's where the ancient came from. And then they found this planet next to a star that was very much like Vega, the star Vega.
Okay.
So it has temperament, temperature, frequency, everything. So they named the planet in honor of the star that the ancients were raised under.
Interesting.
So they named it Vega.
What do you remember doing there, or being?
I remember being taken there because I needed to bond with the planet.
Oh, okay.
I know that sounds very. I'm still trying to figure out why I was taken so young. Because you normally don't bond to the planet until you start going through your rite of passage to become an adult.
Okay.
So I was taken there. This was something important. I understood that. And they wanted to make sure that I bonded to the planet as well as being able to, I don't know why, but bond to Earth as well. It's in order to be considered a full-grown adult, you must be connected to your planet. Otherwise, you don't have that ability, I guess you'd say.
So some experiences on Vega that you think were between 7 and 9, right? Something like that?
Yeah. And I think from what I can remember, it felt like months. But the memory gap is years.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, I think maybe it's a time difference.
Sure. And I mean, it could be 15 minutes difference on Earth, right? You could have a whole lifetime there. And then
luckily we're not that big of a difference.
Right. So the missing time may not be from actually going somewhere and living somewhere, because it doesn't need to be, a long time on Earth. It could be just, several minutes, but all right. So, and then where were you again when you were taken to Stargate, and where were you taken originally?
Cambridgeshire. All my Stargate training was at Cambridgeshire.
So from the United States somewhere.
From the United States to, theoretically at this point, to Vega, and then to Cambridgeshire.
Okay.
And when I got there, the first place they took me was this. It looked like an interrogation room. Okay, It didn't have anything on the walls. It was just all white and metal, and there was that 2-way mirror that was nobody was behind it though. In front of me, all the soldiers had their tags off. Nobody had any tags for anything. No rank, no nothing. So everything was ripped off. Dude in front of me, angry little man. Dude in front of me was wearing the green pants with the stripe on the side. He had the tan shirt, short sleeves, all tags removed. He wore these round glasses, head shaved, real short, high and tight. And he sat there and he looked at me like I was just the most annoying thing in his life, to put it mildly. Didn't say a word, just sat there. Okay, I understood he was either colonel, commanding officer, who knows, but he was somebody. Also, I know is he didn't like kids, not at all. And the lieutenant behind me in the corner was standing there reading my jacket. So he gave the entire history and all this other stuff, things that I didn't understand. And this guy in front of me just sat there and listened and stared at me and listened. And the more he heard, the angrier he got.
Do you know why?
I have suspicions, but I don't think it was a personal thing.
Yeah, me neither. I don't think it was about you per se. Yeah.
No, I think he didn't like the family, and what he didn't like was that, now he had to host this half-breed, which came up a lot. So
Cambridgeshire is in England, is the place that we know, near the town of Cambridge?
It's over closer to the university itself.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Shire. And
was that some kind of a secret compound or something?
It didn't look like it was a secret. I mean, we were above ground. We had brick buildings. We had 3 red brick dormitories, and then in the house that I stayed in, I had Nan who took care of me. Which, keep in mind, I was 9. So Nan took care of me and the other girls. There were 5 of the girls in this house, and our bedrooms were 2nd story. Nan's bedroom was 1st story, and she did all the cooking and the clean. She was a nanny. So she was the only person who could feed. I think that's why they separated us, because she was the only one who could feed us without making us sick.
Why is that?
Food, again, biological digestive system. I do great on Vega. I can eat anything. I come here and I don't absorb nutrition from solid food. I can't handle red meat. I can't handle breads, pastas. It has a very bad allergic reaction. Everything from hives, from your throat swelling. Red meat just doesn't like me. I do great with fish. I do great with vegetables. I do great with fruit. However, I still don't absorb the nutrition from them. So you have to supplement with liquid format vitamins. So even in projects, when I went off planet, they gave me this liquid, chalky, disgusting, semi-quasi chocolate shake to drink.
Wow. So this has been going on from your childhood, right? As you remember. Wow.
Yeah. I still have to supplement because I understand that any food I eat isn't going to do a damn thing. So I make sure to supplement I get powdered packets of vitamins, and it has legitimately, to keep me running normal, I need to take about a double dose of prenatal vitamins with a triple amount of electrolytes, I think it's 2 times probiotics and 7 different superfoods.
Oh my goodness. That's how you eat?
That's the actual nutrition.
Amazing.
Everything else is like junk food. It's like, oh, you're going to eat food. Go ahead. Have fun. So that's why I'm like, Nan was it. And Nan fed me a lot of flowers. A lot of flowers.
Flowers?
I still have a hang up on lavender coffee. I still do rose. She used to do one dessert that was coconut with rose syrup over it. So yeah, she fed me a lot of flowers.
Amazing.
Even artichokes are flowers. I think I ate it. And artichokes.
That's an interesting reference, considering this was a CIA operation.
Yeah.
As far as you know, this was a joint CIA MI6 operation. Research project, right?
And it
And
is documented, and we have like a 47-page report on it.
right. The term psychoeugenics, can you explain this? What does it mean?
Psychoeugenics are people with psychic abilities where it runs in the family. It's postulated the genetic connection.
I see.
So again, using my family because I don't know other people's. One of the reasons my particular bloodline is tapped in, because I'm not the only one, is because we go pretty far back as far as the documentation. When our family ruled Troy, we Septi, the Oracle of Delphi, she was a member of the family. She would have been like all of the priestesses for the Temple of Apollo came out of our family.
Okay.
We maintained altar in the palace to Apollo for 3,000 years. So a lot of this is because of that psychic ability, that clairvoyant ability. Even with the end of Troy, where they get into the story of the fall of Troy, there was one particular who is my direct ancestor, Princess Cassandra of Troy.
Oh, okay.
Put out the warning about, if you keep doing this, you guys are going to ruin the kingdom, which is not exactly what she said, but that's an example of what has run in the family and why many of the women were tapped to be priestesses, because they had that clairvoyant ability. And at the time, they believed that it was because the god Apollo was giving us this clairvoyance and these messages. That's why they were so devoted to the temple.
I see.
So yeah, in the aspect of psychoeugenics, this strong clairvoyant connection that has been established for a few thousand years was enough to spark the interest of MK Ultra projects.
Sure.
Why not somebody who comes from a bloodline that inherently, seemingly, has clairvoyant abilities, clairaudient, clairsentient, and incorporate them into modern projects and see if they can be weaponized. So that's where we're at. That's why Penny Bradley also is related to us.
Sure.
She's like 10th cousin. And there, like I said, other people out of various projects, they go after this bloodline because it's well documented, it's royal, and it's strong psychics, and it's alien.
And who was the original progenitor of this family?
The original ancestor?
Yeah, the original ancestor.
That's where it gets very interesting. Because on both sides of the family tree, on the Anuna side and on the Syrian side, they both go back to the god of water.
Which is Nin-Ki.
Nin-Ki on the Anuna side, and on the Syrian side, 21 generations ago, Agir. Same person, different name. Agir, 21 generations ago, and Nin-Ki, 151 generations ago.
And why is there a difference in the generations? Because they lived that long, or what?
Well, there could be the difference between consciousness transference and longevity. But either way, it's, to one extent, it looks like they decided to reinforce the Syrian DNA. Because even when I married my husband, he was a quarter Syrian, and he's from the Dutch royal line, 11th cousin. So a lot of the arranged marriages seem to be reinforcing or strengthening the Syrian heritage, because Anuna lasts forever. So yeah, that's what I think. And Nin-Ki was half Syrian, half Anuna. The whole blood hybrid.
I see. Okay. So that's the bloodline that you seem to come from. And so the psychoeugenics term is when people talk about, they're looking for people from the bloodlines, this is what the term is, the scientific term, which is, psychoeugenics. They're searching out the people from these specific families to use them, right? Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to also, I think they're also trying to keep track of the 12 original houses, which if you go back far enough, becomes 10 original bloodlines.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm correct, the 10 original families are all descendants of Atlantis, descendants of the colony.
And these families today are, do they have a representation in the so-called Illuminati families, or as we know, the black nobility families that people list often, like the Italian names and stuff? No?
As far as public representation, no, you're not going to see anybody. You're going to see middle management.
Mm-hmm.
So when people start yelling Rothschild, no, fucker, that's middle management. That's not.
So
not
these would be like several steps down hybrids, right? Very diluted kind of.
See, that's the thing. The Anuna DNA is it's the matriarchal DNA, so that influence is brought on by the red light exposure. The Anuna evolved under a red star.
Mm-hmm.
That makes their mitochondrial DNA very strong.
Okay.
So it doesn't degrade the way humans do. With human DNA, that's like 3-6 generations, you dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. You know, you're down to like 17% connection with somebody 6 generations ago. That's how quick it drops. The Anuna DNA stays strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why they had to reinforce the Syrian, because it degrades slower, but average lifespan is still 1,000 years for them. And it still does mutate. It's just much slower. So by reinforcing the marriages on the Syrian side of the family, increasing the Syrian DNA, you don't have to really worry about the Nuna. I don't know when the hell that goes away. For the most part, I look like most Anuna women, except I am pint size. I'm travel sized.
Okay, I see. Okay, so what I was asking is the so-called elite families and stuff that we can actually, you know, read about and hear about are not the real bloodlines, right?
Not at all. They're middle management. They have taken an oath to protect us.
To protect the bloodline people, children?
No, to protect everybody out of these families, out of these bloodlines.
So how is taking you to an MK Ultra process protecting you? I'm just curious.
Well, no, I understand, and it's considering the number of stories of people who have been through very horrific aspects of being in projects. I don't have that kind of experience.
Okay.
For me, it was the closest I got to home here on Earth, and when I was younger, I had blue tints on the outside of my face, so being around other people and expecting to blend in wasn't going to happen. And a good majority of the other kids who were at Cambridgeshire getting trained, they had the same issues. You know, for some, it was much worse. Mine was very minor. For like reptilian kids, dude, you couldn't prep that dude to go out and be amongst the humans. They're going to freak out.
Was he in the group with you? The reptilian kid?
There were a lot of reptilian kids.
Really?
Not the same. Yeah.
Above ground? Like.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the school was above ground. You know, we weren't underground. That would have jacked a lot of people up. Especially in the aspect when you're trying to develop psychic abilities out of any species. You don't want to necessarily put them underground because that will keep them grounded. Not quite what we want to do. We want those piezoelectric to go off.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want them too grounded. Everybody at Cambridgeshire was hybrid. I mean, outside of, you had the people who worked there who you knew were human. You knew the gardener was CIA. You knew the driver was actually our former Australian Special Forces.
Okay.
He came in later. He was a trippy dude. He taught us all the cuss words. And you knew Nan was CIA. You know, you knew the people there were working. I mean, it wasn't a secret.
Right.
And the kids, everybody who was a student there was hybrid. Everybody.
So by reptilian kids, do you mean they looked reptilian or they just had reptilian genetics, but they looked
They
like regular humans?
no, they were hybrids who looked more reptilian. You could see aspects of the other species because it wasn't always human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people assume that it's only human hybrids. I'm not a human hybrid, not at all. I'm a Nuna and Syrian, and any human DNA I had would have died in Camp Lejeune before I was born.
Because people don't know
Radiation.
this. Radiation.
Oh, yes. Camp Lejeune has 83 times the safe amount of radiation exposure. That is, they put radioactive waste into the water supply.
Mm-hmm.
So I was conceived and born, which means in utero, I was exposed to this. And when human DNA is exposed to high amounts of radiation, it simply mutates or dies. But we're going to go with mutates. So if there's any that didn't die, it would have gone to the majority code, which in this case is Syrian.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have adapted to filling gaps. And that makes me what I am. So I'm a Nuna and Syrian with maybe some human.
Yeah,
maybe.
can you repeat again what happened at Camp Lejeune, because it's a known historical I think it wasn't like an accident or something, a breakdown.
No, they had been storing these waste for a very long time. Oh, I think I know what you're saying. Had been storing this waste in these plastic containers for a very long time, and
Okay.
I was referred to as third gen. So they started this whole alleged accident in 1956 and continued until 1985. But it was an accident, really. So I was born in 74 and I was considered third gen.
Third gen of people who were consuming this radioactive water?
Who were born in it.
Were born in this environment.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And what they have told other soldiers who were stationed there, like my father, okay, soldiers or people who were stationed there for 30 days or more.
Mm-hmm.
That's how sick they got.
Oh, okay.
And this 7 different types of cancers. There are 25 major conditions, including neurological, like I said, cancer, infertilities, things that just jack everything. So when I was recently going through the case to find out how many people have filed, 181. Of that large span of time, 181 people have survived enough to file.
I see.
Technically, I should not be looking like this, sitting here, not at all. Most people are dying or on the verge of dying.
I see.
People who are exposed straight to this from birth, they're fairly jacked up. So a lot of me sitting here looking like this, just normal, shouldn't be.
I see.
Not in the slightest.
So what happened was this was a real radioactive leakage case, historical, and it's all proven. And just for the audience to know that you're actually getting a compensation from the government as we speak for this, right? As a survivor of this. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually not just me. It's 5 members of my family. My father did pass away, and then there's me and my 3 children.
I see.
And we are currently at the end today, in fact, of finding out how that's going to go.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Did they try to conceal it? This whole thing about the radiation and the waste in the beginning?
I don't think they knew in the beginning that it would leak out. It seems they documented everything. Part of me thinks that they did know and they did intentionally hide it. But in the 60s, these scientists were getting on TV in the United States, eating radiation, saying how safe it is.
So they didn't really know the effects of it.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
They could have known, they could have not cared. They could have not cared, not known one way or the other, just went, you know what, we're doing some Frankenstein. Let's just play. So, I mean,
Right.
dude, these people made Lyme disease because they were experimenting with ticks. The ticks got out. And did they tell people? No, 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 no. Let's just see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if they knew or not, but they definitely documented everything and could have went with the, well, let's see if anything survives. Then we'll play with it more. You know,
Right.
it's
Yeah. So because for the scientists, even if you take out the malevolent factor for the scientists, it's always a great base for research. Any kind of accident like that, it's a great base for data collection and research and all kinds of things potentially, right? So yeah, that's the way they look at it. And I'm sure that many scientists don't really want to expose people to these things, but once it's happened, that's a different story. You can then utilize it, right?
we
Because
get a
this
lot
is
of that. Well, we didn't mean to kill them, but since they're dead, let's do an autopsy. Yeah.
yeah, and see and find out what we got here, right?
Right.
Okay, so Project Stargate publicly is known as I think it was like an almost like a failed remote viewing slash psychic abilities project. It was pretty much revealed and said to be, just experimental stuff, nothing to worry about. So the Cambridgeshire, and I assume the Cambridge University research facilities were the center of this Stargate Bravo, which is a branch project of the Project Stargate, and
Right.
most people don't know about. I assume because they only know like Project Stargate, experimental, probably some army stuff, blah blah blah. Not successful,
Most
right?
people don't even know the army part because originally Stargate was Project Firestorm, and that was
Mm-hmm.
owned by the army. And then the CIA bought Firestorm and renamed it
Mm-hmm.
Stargate.
Okay, right.
Now, at Cambridgeshire, they taught us regular stuff, but in addition to that, like I'll give you my specific experiences. So, outside of regular school, one, we were not allowed to watch TV. Two, not allowed to go do movies. Three, not allowed to listen to modern music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or the entire place was basically fenced in. So you had to earn the right to go into town. And
Mm-hmm.
that meant you could disguise your ass well enough to blend.
I see.
Blending is extremely important. And I to the point where it was so drilled into me how much you have to blend, how much you have to just fade into the background that I still do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the long lasting stuff, when I go to conventions, I get very anxious because I'm around a bunch of feral humans. And that's
Okay,
kind of what like
I
it's
see.
like they might jump out and attack you. You don't know. You better just watch because so yeah, I try and get over that kind of agoraphobia that developed. And it's I'm working on it.
I see. Okay, so this is a very now I know where they got the X-Men, the whole X-Men story. This is a typical mutant versus human population story. You have a compound, very British style or traditional style compound.
What they do is they're trying to get the neural pathways,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why people with synesthesia are of such interest. I have this concept with my neurology, which is a condition called synesthesia, where
Mm-hmm.
all of your senses are integrated in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get the clairvoyant vision, I also get the audio, I get everything that comes with it.
I see.
So they wanted to create more people like me.
Mm-hmm.
I it organically, but they want to control it. And if you get these people to have basically one solid functioning brain that can predict attacks coming on, that can fully access kinetic abilities, you basically have an X-Men, like you said.
Right.
Except this X-Men would be weaponized, controllable, programmable, the
Mm-hmm.
ideal little soldier. And if you can clone Homeboy and increase the or increase the pineal gland function, even better. Maybe
Okay.
throw in a little bit of, maybe animal here and there, increase the body mass, get it a little bigger. Yeah, obedient if you throw in a bit of dog.
I see. All right. So this was what they were doing primarily. That you guys were what? Sitting in some kind of hemisync chairs and stuff like that?
We slept to it.
Uh-huh.
They would play the frequencies at night, and we would listen to the frequencies at night. For me in particular, I have electrokinesis.
Electrokinesis, yes. Mm-hmm.
So this is what they were trying to bring to the surface in me. Now, the failure aspect is that in taking these two, what you ended up very often with was psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they were trying to find a way to merge these without the person becoming psychotic or splitting into multiple personalities or having some other major, schizophrenia popped up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, one of the reasons why it did not succeed. So, with me, what they did is, and I agreed to this before I described this, I did agree to this. So, what they did is they tried to do varying degrees of electroshock therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which is typical MK, early stages MK Ultra.
I didn't even know that, but yeah, I agree to it because they were trying to bring out the electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this in hindsight, this is probably best they did do it under controlled circumstances because that goes left and you tend to have shit explode.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's not controlled, this is a very dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get it under control, then yes, you've got this beautiful thing that away from the weapons aspect. One, it can take pain away from people. People with chronic pain, it can help with that. It can help treat arthritis. Agriculturally, you can speed up. You want the lower, longer pulses. They taught me some control theory.
Mm-hmm.
So your pulses sent through the dirt helps plants grow.
That's electrokinesis, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you get it right, if you get it controlled, there are benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the aspect of taking a lightning strike in process and redirecting it,
Mm-hmm.
there are benefits. And that's what they tried to sell people on. And with the military aspect, it's you don't understand. They can beat Thor. It's like, no, clearly we do. But that's how they sold it to the generals.
So this seems to be the opposite of what MK Ultra is usually, understood as, which is they didn't try to create multiple personalities. They didn't try to fracture your mind. They actually tried to synchronize your mind and integrate it. But do you think they were overdoing this too much? Because you said that people basically the whole project failed and people ended up with schizophrenia and psychosis. So they didn't fracture your mind per se, but they also ended up with the same effects, which was what MK Ultra was also, having is, as Penny said, they had 1,000 children in their group at Langley and only 5 survived because of this mind fracture process.
I don't think they honestly knew what they were doing. I mean, it's even to today, I don't think that a majority of psychic abilities is understood.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're taking people, let's dehumanize it a little. If you're taking a computer
mm-hmm.
and you mess with the core operating system and it blue screens you, well, you just got the blue screen of death, you're going to jack it up. So flip it over to the human brain. Okay, if you're messing with the operating system code and you get the blue screen, well,
mm-hmm.
you messed up they don't even know the code to program the human body with. They don't know how to utilize the vessel as a kind of machine. And I wholly think that in the 60s, they were in that aspect of 60s and 70s. with a lot of that. Well, let's see what happens if, let's give them this radiation. Let's see what happens if we do this frequency. Let's see what happens if we give them a frequency at 200 gigahertz and see how it fractures the brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It'll be an accident.
It will be what?
It'll be an accident.
Right.
But no, it's everything was, well, we'll stay here. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's see how crazy, let's see how much it takes to go to crazy. Let's see what it takes to weaponize a frequency that fractures a person's mind so that they never come back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not killing them. It's non-lethal, but they're going to die anyway. Because when your brain can't remember how to breathe, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm. So you don't remember any alters being created in this project, right?
Oh, no, I don't have any alters. I don't have any. I'm not schizophrenic. I don't have DAD.
Mm-hmm.
I am sound mind, and I wasn't not exposed to any torture or anything like that. They weren't trying to break us.
I see.
They were trying to teach us control.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing. And you can read this manual for anybody who wants to read the manual.
Mm-hmm.
There is a book about Stargate that is a compilation of documents.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a story, it's not a fiction. It's basically the manual that teaches you the terminology and the process. So it's all out there. It's not a secret. Gateway process is public. Stargate documentation on the CIA website in the archives is all declassified because we are not a threat.
Okay. So this is supposedly a shutdown project now. And it has been shut down for what? Since what year?
92, I believe it was. Look, they can say shut down all they want, but Project was shut down.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's publicly shut down from around the 90s, right? Okay.
Right.
And so, and your branch was, and your time period that you were there was from which year to which year?
81 or 82. I would go into projects, and then from 9 to 24, so about 17 or 18 years.
18 years.
And yeah. Like I said, a lot of it was home for me.
In real time?
In real time, not fake time.
No, yes, I mean in real time as in the same, without like time dilation. You weren't there on another time loop stuff. You were in this.
Yeah.
So this was in your life as you remember it. You spent the time there, and it's all official. You have the. Do you have the documents to? You know,
I don't have documents.
Did you get discharged from it somehow, or what? How did that happen?
I begged to go on an off-world contract, and when they agreed, they put in a lot of rules and stipulations, and I got approved to go off-world because I wanted to find artifacts for theory, because it all comes back to artifacts. But yeah, I had a theory about progenitors, and got the contract for there. And at the end of that contract, I disobeyed an order, and they punished me.
I see.
And that brought me to where I am today.
I see. Okay, that's very interesting. But let's back up a little. What did you guys do for 18 years there?
Well, we tried to bring out the electrokinesis. You gain control over what you have first. So as far as that, because I mean, it's not, you don't just take psychic people and leave them to randomly be. They're going to scramble. So what you do is you take them and you teach them how to use their abilities, especially if you're trying to weaponize. I mean, what good is somebody who doesn't know how to shoot a gun?
Sure. So you were also trained like academically there? You went to school?
Yes. I mean, we had to do the academics because you can't send out a bunch of stupid people. But in addition to that, also, you know, learning how to navigate, because each person has a different way of doing it. But, you know, for me, very specifically, it was connecting with nature, because part of that connection connects to the universe, as above, so below. So if you can connect with a planet, and if you can talk to a planet, and you can connect with animals, and you can connect with other species, You can connect to the entirety of the universe. You can talk to planets, you can talk to stars, all of it. So each step in the process takes you that much closer to being in unison with the totality of this dimension. Just this dimension.
Wow.